The stars twisted and bent as the Kaalint research vessel tore through the fabric of space. Inside the command chamber, Commander Zixthal watched the viewing screen with 3 of his compound eyes, while the 4th monitored the navigation systems. His chitinous exoskeleton clicked softly as he adjusted his position on the elevated platform. After traveling for what felt like mere hours in faster-than-light speed, they had crossed a distance that would have taken light itself 30,000 years. Earth appeared on the screen as a blue marble suspended in the black void. Zixthal felt a wave of satisfaction wash through his neural clusters. The planet looked exactly as it had in the ancient survey records. White clouds swirled over vast oceans. Green and brown land masses dotted the surface. Everything seemed in order. "Begin scanning for base installation 794, Zixthal commanded. His translator device converted his clicking mandibles into words the ship's computer could understand. Science Officer Krina worked at her station, her antennae twitching with concentration. Initiating deep scan of designated coordinates. The base should be located in the northern region of the 3rd largest desert. The Kaalint had left the base behind 30,000 years ago, back when humans were barely more than clever animals. Those primitives had lived in caves, hunted with stone-tipped spears, and knew nothing of metals or agriculture. The Kaalint had found them fascinating subjects for long-term study. So they had built a research station, hidden it with advanced cloaking technology, and filled it with automated systems designed to observe and record human development over millions of years. The base had been built to last. Its foundations were quantum-locked, meaning they existed partially outside normal spacetime. Its power core drew energy directly from Earth's magnetic field. Its hull was made of self-repairing smart materials that could survive meteor strikes, volcanic eruptions, and ice ages. Nothing short of a supernova should have been able to destroy it. "Commander." Krina's voice carried a note of confusion. "I'm not detecting the base." Zixthal's mandibles clicked in annoyance. "Check your instruments. The base cannot simply be invisible to our scanners. It was built with Kaalint technology." "I have checked 3 times, Commander. The instruments are functioning perfectly." Krina looked up from her station, her eyes reflecting genuine concern. "There is nothing at those coordinates. No energy signature. No quantum distortion. No molecular traces, nothing." "That is impossible," Zixthal said. He moved to the science station and examined the data himself. The scanners showed only sand, rock, and dirt at the base location. It was as if their research station had never existed at all. "Perhaps the coordinates are wrong," suggested Pilot Vixkor from his station. 30,000 years is a long time. Planetary drift, tectonic movement. "The coordinates are correct," Krina interrupted. "I have accounted for all planetary movement. I am scanning the entire desert region now, expanding to a 1,000-kilometer radius." The ship's sensors swept across the surface below, penetrating deep into the Earth, analyzing every particle and energy signature. The results appeared on the main screen. Zixthal stared at them in disbelief. "Still nothing," Krina confirmed. "Commander, the base is gone." Zixthal felt a chill run through his nervous system. In all his years of service to the Galactic Council, he had never encountered anything like this. Kaalint installations did not disappear. They especially did not disappear without leaving any trace whatsoever. "Scan the entire planet," he ordered. Perhaps the base was moved. As the sensors expanded their search, other discoveries began to emerge. Zixthal watched the data flow across his screens with growing alarm. Earth was not the primitive world they had left behind. The planet was covered with artificial structures. Cities of metal and stone sprawled across every continent, roads carved through forests and deserts like veins. Thousands of artificial satellites orbited the planet. "Commander, I'm detecting electromagnetic radiation across multiple frequencies," Krina reported. "Radio waves, microwave transmissions, high-energy particle emissions. This is not natural." "The humans," Vixkor breathed. "They have developed technology." Zixthal examined the data more carefully. The technology was primitive by galactic standards, but it was still impressive for a species that had been using stone tools just 30,000 years ago. They had discovered electricity, built machines, and even achieved spaceflight, though they had not yet left their own solar system. "Classify their civilization level," Zixthal ordered. Krina worked quickly. "Early Type 1 civilization. They are harnessing their planet's energy, but have not yet achieved faster-than-light travel. Their weapons are chemical and nuclear-based with some basic energy systems. They pose no threat to this vessel." Zixthal considered the situation. The humans had advanced remarkably fast, but they were still primitive compared to the Kolint. More importantly, they should not have been able to affect the base. Human technology, even at this level, could not have touched quantum-locked foundations. A nuclear weapon could have exploded directly on the base and done nothing but reveal its presence. Something else happened here, Zixthal said quietly. Something we do not understand. Should we attempt contact with the humans? Vixkor asked. Perhaps they know what happened to our base. No, Zixthal decided. Not yet. First we investigate, deploy stealth probes to the base location. I want a complete analysis of that site. Geological surveys, temporal scans, quantum field analysis, everything. There must be evidence of what happened. As the crew worked to launch the probes, Zixthal stared at the blue planet below. 30,000 years ago they had come to observe simple primitives. Now those primitives had built a technological civilization, and somehow, impossibly, the Kolint's indestructible base had vanished without a trace. Something had gone very wrong on Earth, and Zixthal had the growing suspicion that the humans knew more than anyone expected. The stealth probes descended through Earth's atmosphere like invisible ghosts. Commander Zixthal watched their feeds on the main screen as they approached the coordinates where base installation 794 should have been. The probes were equipped with the most advanced sensors in the Kolint arsenal, capable of detecting everything from quantum fluctuations to historical temporal echoes. What they found made no sense. The terrain has been completely altered, Science Officer Krina reported. Her antennae drooped in confusion. Where the base should be, there are now agricultural fields, irrigation systems, roads, and a human settlement approximately 2 kilometers to the east. The screen showed rolling fields of green crops. Large machines moved through them, harvesting plants with mechanical efficiency. Humans worked alongside the machines, their tiny forms moving with purpose across the landscape. Where there should have been a hidden research station, there was only farmland. Go deeper, Zixthal ordered. Scan beneath the surface. The base foundations extended 300 meters underground. The probes sent penetrating waves through the earth. The results appeared on the screen layer by layer. Soil, rock, ancient sediment, water tables, but no trace of Kolint construction materials, no quantum-locked foundations, no power conduits, nothing. It is as if the base never existed, Krina said quietly. Zixthal's mandibles clicked in frustration. He had commanded research, vessels for 200 years and had never encountered such an impossibility. Expand the temporal scan. I want to see the history of this location. Go back 50,000 years. The probes activated their temporal echo sensors. These devices could read the faint impressions that past events left on space-time itself, like fossils preserved in stone. The image on the screen began to shift, showing the same location at different points in history. 20 years ago, farmland. 100 years ago, farmland. 500 years ago, desert with a small human settlement. 1,000 years ago, desert with nomadic humans passing through. 5,000 years ago, pristine desert with no human presence. There, Zixthal pointed. Stop there. The image froze at a point approximately 15,000 years in the past. The desert landscape was empty and untouched. But there, visible, only as the faintest quantum distortion, was an outline. The outline of base installation 794. The base was there 15,000 years ago, Krina confirmed. But look at this. She advanced the timeline forward slowly. At approximately 14,800 years in the past, something changed. The quantum signature began to fluctuate. Then it weakened. Then it disappeared completely. What could cause that? Pilot Vixkor asked. Nothing, Zixthal said. Nothing in nature could disrupt a quantum lock. It requires deliberate technological intervention, very advanced technological intervention. But Commander, Vixkor protested, 14,000 years ago, these humans were still primitive. According to our original survey, they had not even developed agriculture yet. Zixthal studied the data in silence. His mind worked through the possibilities, discarding each one as impossible. A natural disaster? No, quantum locks were designed to survive anything nature could produce. A malfunction? No, Quilent technology had redundancy systems within redundancy systems. An attack by another spacefaring species? Possible, but there was no evidence of any other civilization visiting Earth. Hack into their information networks, Zixthal ordered suddenly. I want access to their historical records, everything they know about this region. It took the ship's computer less than 3 minutes to infiltrate Earth's primitive internet systems. Vast amounts of human data flooded into the Quilent database. Books, scientific papers, archaeological surveys, historical documents, legends, and myths. Krina sorted through the information quickly. I have found extensive human archaeological data about this region. They call it the Sahara Desert. According to their records, this area has been inhabited by humans on and off for over 30,000 years. Any mention of our base? No, Commander. There are no records of any structure at that location. But... Krina paused, her eyes scanning through more data. There are legends. Ancient stories passed down by the local human tribes. They speak of a place they called the house that should not be. A structure that appeared and disappeared in the desert. A place where the sky demons lived. Zixthal leaned forward. Sky demons? A primitive term for extraterrestrial visitors, Krina explained. The legends are vague and fragmented, but they all mention a structure that could not be entered by normal means, a building that hummed with power, a place the tribal elders warned their children to avoid. So they knew about the base, Vixkor said. But how did they overcome the cloaking systems? I do not know, Krina admitted. But there is more. I found a reference in a human archaeological journal from 20 years ago. A team discovered some unusual material fragments in this region. Crystalline structures that could not be identified. The fragments were sent to a laboratory for analysis, but the laboratory later claimed they were simply unusual natural formations. Zixthal felt a cold certainty growing in his core. Find that laboratory. I want to know what happened to those fragments. As Krina worked, Zixthal made a decision. Prepare an abduction shuttle. We need to question these humans directly. Find their top scientists and military leaders. Bring them to the ship for interrogation. Commander, Vixkor said carefully, the Galactic Council has strict protocols about first contact. We should not... The Council is 30,000 light-years away, Zixthal interrupted, and we have a mystery that threatens everything we understand about our technology. We need answers. The abduction shuttle was prepared within the hour. It descended toward Earth's surface, its stealth systems active. The target was a human research facility where several scientists who had studied the Sahara region worked. The plan was simple. Render the humans unconscious with stasis fields, transport them to the ship, conduct interviews, then return them with their memories edited. It should have been routine. But as the shuttle broke through the cloud layer, alarms began screaming throughout the ship. Krina's voice filled the command chamber with urgency. Commander, we have been detected. Multiple energy signatures are converging on our position. Human vessels are launching from their planet's surface. They have weapons. On the screen, Zixthal saw something that made his blood run cold. Dozens of human spacecraft were rising from Earth, moving with speed and precision that should not have been possible for a Type 1 civilization. Their hulls glowed with energy fields. Their weapons ports were opening. Pull back the shuttle, Zixthal ordered. Full defensive shields, evasive maneuvers. As the Quilent vessel prepared for confrontation, Zixthal realized with dawning horror that they had made a terrible mistake. The humans were not as primitive as their scans had suggested. They had been hiding their true capabilities. And now the Quilent had revealed themselves. Commander Zixthal gripped the command platform as his ship shuddered from the force of human weapons fire. The defensive shields held, but the energy readings were alarming. These were not the primitive nuclear or chemical weapons his sensors had initially detected. These were plasma cannons, gravity disruptors, directed energy beams that bent space itself to reach their targets. Impossible, Vixkor whispered at his station. Our initial scans showed no technology of this level. How did we miss this? They hid it from us, Krina said, her voice tight with fear. They knew we were scanning them and they deliberately showed us only what they wanted us to see. 30 human vessels surrounded the Khalint ship in a perfect spherical formation. Each vessel was roughly half the size of the research ship, but together they represented a significant threat. Their hulls bore markings in human languages and their designs were elegant, almost organic in appearance. "Hail them," Zixthal ordered. "Open a communication channel." The main screen flickered and changed. A human face appeared, framed against the bridge of one of their vessels. The human was female with dark skin and short-cropped hair. Her eyes were sharp and intelligent, showing no fear whatsoever. She wore a uniform of deep blue with insignia that Zixthal did not recognize. "This is Admiral Kenji Okafor of the Earth Defense Fleet," the human said. Her voice was calm but carried an edge of steel. "You have entered protected space without authorization and attempted to abduct our citizens. Power down your weapon systems and prepare to be boarded, or we will open fire with full force." Zixthal composed himself. He had conducted first contact protocols dozens of times before, though never under such hostile circumstances. "I am Commander Zixthal of the Khalint Research Collective. We mean no harm to your species. We are here on a scientific mission." "A scientific mission," Admiral Okafor repeated, and there was something in her tone that sent a chill through Zixthal's neural clusters. "You mean like the scientific mission you conducted 30,000 years ago?" The command chamber fell silent. Every Khalint on the bridge turned to stare at the screen. "You know about that," Zixthal said slowly. "Oh, we know about a great many things, Commander." The Admiral leaned forward in her chair. "We know about Base Installation 794. We know about your quantum-locked foundations and your self-repairing smart materials. We know about your observation protocols and your study of our ancestors. We know everything. How?" The word escaped Zixthal's mandibles before he could stop it. Admiral Okafor smiled. It was not a friendly expression. "You should have checked your base security logs more carefully before you left. Let me tell you a story, Commander. About 29,847 years ago, a young human hunter named Akara was tracking a gazelle through the desert. He was using all his senses as his father had taught him, and he noticed something strange, a place where the sand fell differently, where the wind seemed to stop, where nothing grew. On the screen behind the Admiral, images began to appear, ancient cave paintings, drawings of a strange rectangular shape in the desert, stick figures of humans standing before it in awe and fear. Akara told his tribe about the invisible house, the Admiral continued. They called it a sign from the spirits. The tribal elders declared it sacred ground, forbidden. But humans, Commander, we are curious creatures. Over generations, we studied that invisible house. We touched it. We threw things at it. We tried to dig around it. And slowly, very slowly, we began to understand that it was not magic. It was something else. Something made by beings from the sky. Zixthal felt his confidence crumbling. Your species was primitive. Stone tools. No written language. You could not possibly have. Primitive does not mean stupid, Admiral Okafor interrupted sharply. It took us thousands of years, but we learned. Around 20,000 years ago, one of our shamans discovered that certain crystals would glow when brought near your base. Around 15,000 years ago, we figured out how to use those crystals to see the outline of your structure. 10,000 years ago, we broke through your outer shell. The images on the screen changed. Archaeological photographs. A massive excavation site. And there, half buried in sand and rock, were pieces of Khalint technology, fragments of hull plating, sections of power conduits, a partially intact door mechanism. We took your base apart piece by piece, the Admiral said. We studied every component. We learned from it. We built upon it. Commander, every piece of technology you see around you, every ship in my fleet, every advancement humanity has made in the last 15,000 years, it all started with your indestructible research station. You uplifted yourselves, Krina whispered. Using our technology. We prefer to think of it as learning from a very expensive textbook you left lying around, Admiral Okafor said. Of course, it did not happen overnight. It took us 5,000 years just to understand your power systems, another 3,000 to grasp the basic principles of your quantum locks. But we are patient, we are persistent, and we remember. Zixthal felt a wave of horror wash over him. The implications were staggering. The Galactic Council had strict laws about technology transfer to developing species. The Khalint had not intentionally uplifted humanity, but the result was the same. If the council learned what had happened, the consequences would be severe. His entire species could face sanctions, possibly even quarantine. Why did you hide your technology from our scans? Zixthal asked. Because we have been waiting for you, Admiral Okafor said simply. We knew you would come back eventually. Your base logs indicated a planned return visit in approximately 30,000 years. We have had a long time to prepare for this meeting. We wanted to see what you would do, how you would react when you found your base missing. And now? Zixthal asked carefully.
What happens now?
The Admiral's expression softened slightly. Now, Commander, we talk. You attempted to abduct our citizens. By rights, we could destroy your ship and claim self-defense. But we are not interested in war. We are interested in answers. And perhaps if we can come to an understanding, we might discuss the future. You want to join the Galactic Council, Zixthal realized. We want many things, Admiral Okafor said. First and foremost, we want respect. We want to be treated as equals, not as animals to be studied. We want the knowledge you possess about the galaxy. And yes, eventually we want our place among the stars. Zixthal looked around his bridge. His crew stared back at him, waiting for his decision. He could try to fight their way out, but the human fleet had them surrounded and outgunned. He could try to escape to faster than light speed, but his ship was not designed for combat and the humans had demonstrated sophisticated weapons. Or he could do something he had never done before in all his years of service. He could admit that the Khalint had made a mistake. Very well, Admiral, Zixthal said. We accept your invitation to talk, but I request that we meet in person on neutral ground. There's much we need to discuss. Admiral Okafor nodded. Agreed. Welcome to Earth, Commander. We have been expecting you for a very long time. The shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere in silence. Commander Zixthal watched through the viewports as they passed through clouds and approached a massive city. Towers of glass and steel reached toward the sky. Flying vehicles moved through designated air corridors. Below, millions of humans went about their daily lives, unaware that aliens walked among them for the first time in 30,000 years. This is New Geneva, Admiral Okafor explained from her seat across from Zixthal, built on what used to be the ruins of several ancient cities. We chose to meet here because of what it represents: unity, progress, and memory. The shuttle landed on a platform atop an enormous building. As Zixthal and his two crew members, Krina and Vixkor, stepped out, they were greeted by a group of humans in formal attire. The humans showed no fear at the sight of the insectoid aliens. Instead, they bowed respectfully. Welcome to Earth, said an elderly human male with white hair and dark eyes. I am Secretary General Chen of the United Earth Government. It is an honor to meet you, though the circumstances are not what we had hoped. Zixthal returned the bow as best he could with his different physiology. The honor is ours, though I confess I am still processing the revelation of your true technological level. All will be explained, Secretary General Chen promised. Please follow us. They were led through corridors lined with artwork and historical displays. Zixthal noticed that many of the displays showed images of the stars, of spacecraft, of humans reaching outward. But there were also older images, cave paintings, ancient tools, drawings of his own species standing beside humans. You preserved the memory of us, Krina observed quietly. We preserved everything, Admiral Okafor said. Our entire civilization was shaped by that first contact, even if you never intended it to be contact at all. You were our first proof that we were not alone in the universe. That knowledge changed us. They entered a vast chamber that took Zixthal's breath away. The Global Archives Museum stretched before them, a space easily 500 meters long and 100 meters high. Display cases held artifacts from every era of human history. But at the center of the room, given a place of highest honor, was something that made Zixthal stop in his tracks. A panel of Khalint hull material, 3 meters wide and 2 meters tall, stood on a raised platform. It was intact, its surface still showing the slight shimmer of quantum-locked molecules, but it had been engraved. Human hands had carved words into its surface in dozens of languages, but the largest inscription was in Earth Common, to our ancient teachers. We kept this piece, Secretary General Chen said softly. The last piece we removed from your base. Everything else was studied, reverse engineered, and eventually recycled or displayed in educational facilities. But this one piece we kept here. As a reminder, Zixthal moved closer to the panel. His mandibles clicked as he read the inscription. Around it were display cases showing the progression of human technology. Stone tools, bronze implements, iron weapons. And then suddenly a leap. Crystalline energy matrices, quantum processors, gravity manipulation devices, all clearly derivative of Kal-Int technology, but adapted, improved, made uniquely human. Tell me the whole story, Zixthal said. I need to understand how this happened. Secretary General Chen gestured to seats arranged in a circle around the panel. As they sat, a holographic display activated showing images from Earth's past. After Akara discovered your base, it became the focus of our most intelligent minds, Chen began. For generations, tribal elders would send their brightest children to study the invisible house. They would spend their entire lives trying to understand it. They passed their knowledge to their children. Who passed it to their children? The holographic display showed images of primitive humans camping near the base, drawing diagrams in the sand, leaving offerings. Around 20,000 years ago, we had our first breakthrough. A young woman named Sina discovered that certain rocks, what we now know were crystals with specific atomic structures, would glow near your base. She mapped the entire outline using those crystals. For the first time, we could see the full size of what we were dealing with. The display showed more images, humans drawing careful maps, building permanent structures near the base to house the scholars who studied it. 15,000 years ago, we found the first door mechanism. It took us 200 years to understand how it worked, another 50 years to finally open it without triggering your security systems. Chen smiled slightly. Your base AI was very insistent that we should not be there. It tried to warn you. It tried to activate defense protocols, but it was designed to observe and record, not to harm developing species, so it could only watch as we slowly took apart everything you had built. The AI, Zixthal said suddenly. What happened to it? Still functional, Chen said. We will show you later. Please let me finish the history. The display showed humans carrying pieces of Kal-Int technology from the desert, building workshops, studying the components with primitive tools that gradually became more sophisticated. 10,000 years ago, we understood your power systems. We built our first power generator based on your designs. It revolutionized our society. No more dependence on fire alone. We could heat entire buildings, illuminate cities. Power machines we had not even imagined yet. 5,000 years ago, we cracked your data storage systems. Suddenly, we had access to your databases, your scientific knowledge, your star charts, your mathematics and physics. It was like going from candlelight to sunlight in an instant. We learned about the Galactic Council, about other species, about the true size of the universe. The display showed human scientists studying holographic data, their faces filled with wonder and determination. But we also learned something troubling, Chen continued. We learned about the Council's laws regarding developing species. We learned that what happened to us, whether accident or not, was forbidden. We realized that if you returned and reported what had happened, you would face severe punishment. Your entire species might suffer for a mistake you made 30,000 years ago. Zixthal felt a wave of emotion. You hid your advancement to protect us? Partially, Admiral Okafor said. We also hid it to protect ourselves. We did not know how you would react. Would you try to suppress us? Remove our technology? We decided it was safer to appear primitive until we understood your intentions. But that was only a few thousand years ago, Vixcor protested. How did you advance so quickly from there to this? He gestured at the sophisticated city around them. Because once we understood the principles, we could innovate, Chen explained. Your technology taught us the rules of the universe. But we added our own creativity, our own solutions. Human ingenuity combined with Kal-Int knowledge created something new, something neither of our species had built alone. The display showed modern human spacecraft, beautiful and deadly in equal measure. We are not copies of you, Admiral Okafor said. We are something else, something that could only exist because a Kal-Int research vessel decided to study our primitive ancestors and accidentally left a treasure trove of knowledge behind. Zixthal looked at the panel with its inscription. To our ancient teachers, he read again. But we did not teach you. We only left our tools lying around. And that, Secretary General Chen said with a smile, is the most human way to learn anything. We are scavengers, Commander. We take what we find and make it our own. We always have been. Commander Zixthal sat alone in the observation room aboard his ship, staring at Earth through the viewport. The planet rotated slowly below, its lights twinkling like stars scattered across the surface. Somewhere down there, billions of humans lived their lives, built their cities, and reached for the stars, all because his species had made one simple mistake 30,000 years ago. The door opened and Krina entered. "Commander, we have received a response from the Galactic Council. They are requesting a full report on our findings." Zixthal felt his neural clusters tighten with anxiety. "What have you told them so far?" "Only that we have arrived at Earth and located evidence of technological development among the native species. Nothing more." Krina moved closer. "Commander, we must tell them the truth. The Council has laws for a reason. If we conceal what happened here, if we tell them the truth, the Kalant will face consequences that could destroy our civilization," Zixthal interrupted. "We will be labeled as uplifters, contaminators. We will be quarantined, possibly for thousands of years. Our research privileges will be revoked, our trade agreements cancelled. Everything our species has built over millions of years could be lost. But the law was made to protect developing species from exploitation," Zixthal said bitterly. "We did not exploit humanity. We made a mistake. We underestimated them. Is that truly worthy of species-level punishment?" Before Krina could answer, a communication alert sounded. Admiral Okafor's face appeared on the screen. "Commander Zixthal, Secretary General Chen requests your presence planetside. He says there is something important we need to discuss. All of you." 2 hours later, Zixthal and his crew stood once again in the Global Archives Museum. But this time they were not alone. The chamber was filled with humans. Scientists, historians, military officers, and government officials. They all watched the Kalant with expressions of curiosity and respect. Secretary General Chen stood before the assembled crowd. "Commander Zixthal, we have been monitoring your communications with the Galactic Council. We know you face a difficult decision. You can tell them the truth about what happened here and face punishment for a mistake made 30,000 years ago. Or you can lie, and risk even worse consequences if the truth is discovered later." Zixthal said nothing. There was nothing to say. The humans understood his dilemma perfectly. "We have a proposal," Chen continued. "A third option, if you will. But first we need to show you something." Admiral Okafor activated a holographic display. It showed star charts, trade routes, technological specifications, and military capabilities. All of it human. All of it remarkably advanced. "In some areas we have matched your technology," Okafor explained. "In others we have actually exceeded it. Our approach to gravity manipulation is more efficient than yours. Our medical nanotechnology is more sophisticated. Our artificial intelligence systems are more adaptive. We did not just copy what you left behind, Commander. We innovated. We are ready to join the galactic community," Chen said. "But there is a problem. We are unknown, unproven. If we simply appear one day and claim to be a spacefaring civilization, the Council will investigate our origins. They will discover the truth about your base and you will suffer for it." "So you want us to lie for you?" Zixthal said flatly. "No." Chen smiled. "We want you to tell a different truth. One that benefits both our species." He gestured and the holographic display changed. It showed a timeline, but this timeline was different from the real history. In this version, the Kalant had returned to Earth, discovered humanity had achieved spaceflight independently, and made first contact. The base was never mentioned. "We propose a partnership," Chen explained. The Kalant returned to the Council and report that humanity has developed into a spacefaring civilization through natural progression. You recommend us for Council membership as a newly discovered species. The Council will verify our technology, see that we meet the requirements, and grant us membership. "You want us to cover up the truth," Krina said. Her voice troubled. "We want to offer you redemption," Admiral Okafor corrected, "and ourselves a future. Think about it, Commander. What serves the spirit of the Council's laws better? Punishing you for an accident that actually led to a beneficial outcome? Or allowing a new species to join the galactic community peacefully? The Council will investigate," Vixkor pointed out. "They will scan Earth, they will find evidence of your rapid advancement." "Let them look," Chen said confidently. "We have spent the last 2,000 years preparing for this moment. We have buried, destroyed, or disguised any evidence that could not be explained by natural development. Your base is gone. The components were recycled into our infrastructure generations ago. The only proof that you were ever here is locked and secured facilities that the Council will never see. And your base AI? Zixthal asked. You said it still exists. Chen nodded to one of the scientists who stepped forward carrying a small container. We kept it safe. Preserved it perfectly. We thought you might want it back. The container opened, revealing a crystalline core no larger than Zixthal's hand. Even after 30,000 years, it still pulsed with faint light. The AI that had been left to watch over the base and record humanity's development. It still works, the scientist said, though its last log entry is quite interesting. Recorded 29,847 years ago. Zixthal reached out and touched the core. Data flooded into his neural interface. Logs, observations, recordings. Millennia of humanity's development, all faithfully recorded. And there, at the very end, the final entry. Alert: security breach detected. Primitive humans have overcome external door mechanisms through sustained trial and error, spanning approximately 200 years. Probability of successful base infiltration, 93% within next 50 years. Recommended action: immediate evacuation. The humans are learning. They are adapting. They are not what we thought. They are dangerous, beautiful, worthy. I wish them well. End log. Zixthal felt something he had not expected. Pride. Not in his own species, but in humanity. The AI had recognized what the Qualent had missed. These humans were special. Why are you giving this back to me? He asked quietly. Because it is yours, Chen said simply. And because we want you to understand something. We do not see you as enemies. We see you as the species that gave us our greatest gift. Proof that we were not alone. That pushed us to reach higher than we ever could have reached on our own. We are grateful, Commander, and we want to repay that gift. By saving my species from the consequences of our mistake. By offering partnership. Admiral Okafor corrected. We need you, Commander. We need a voice in the Council who understands us, who can vouch for us. In return, we offer you something precious. We offer you humans as allies, as friends, as the one species in the galaxy who will always remember that the Qualent gave them the stars. Zixthal looked at his crew. Krina's antennae were trembling with emotion. Vixkor's eyes were wide with hope. They both wanted this. They both understood what it meant. There is one condition, Zixthal said finally. I will not lie to the Council. I will tell them we discovered humanity had achieved spaceflight. I will recommend you for membership. But I want something in return. I want access to your innovations, your improvements on our technology. I want a true partnership, not just political convenience. Chen extended his hand in the human gesture of agreement. Done. Welcome to Earth, Commander. Not as observers this time. As partners. Zixthal reached out and grasped the human's hand. The skin was warm and soft, so different from his own chitinous exterior. But the grip was firm. Strong. Determined. 6 months later, Commander Zixthal stood before the Galactic Council and delivered his report. Humanity was accepted as a probationary member, pending full evaluation. The Council was impressed by human innovation and curious about their rapid development, but found nothing suspicious. The official story held, and when the first human vessel prepared to depart Earth to join Zixthal for the journey to the Council headquarters, something beautiful happened. The ship was named the Akara, after the hunter who had discovered the base so long ago. Its hull bore an inscription in both human and Qualent languages, "We rise together." As the two ships engaged their faster-than-light drives and leaped toward the stars, Zixthal looked at the human captain on his communication screen and felt something he had never felt before. When looking at another species, he felt hope. Not just for his own people, but for what humans and Qualent could accomplish together. The galaxy would never be the same. And neither would they. The morning sun cut through the half-closed blinds of Jack Reed's small apartment. He rolled over with a groan, his hand slapping the alarm clock into silence. Another day in the life of a former military pilot with nowhere to fly. Jack sat up and rubbed his eyes. At 23, he should have been at the peak of his career with the Earth Defense Force. Instead, he found himself discharged after questioning orders during a border patrol that nearly ended in disaster. His superiors called it insubordination. Jack called it common sense. His tiny kitchen offered the usual choices: Instant coffee or instant coffee. As the kettle boiled, Jack stared at the collection of model spaceships lining his shelf. Each one represented a dream now beyond his reach. Message incoming, announced his home system. Jack sighed. Display. The air in front of him shimmered, but instead of the usual text or video call, a three-dimensional hologram formed. Technology far beyond Earth standard. Jack's coffee mug slipped from his fingers and shattered on the floor. The hologram showed a massive spinning space station, built around what appeared to be a captured star. Text floated beneath it. Sunspire Academy, you have been selected. A voice emerged from the projection, deep and clearly non-human. Jack Reed of Earth, I am Headmaster Torek of Sunspire Academy. For 10,000 years we have trained the galaxy's elite. Today we extend an invitation to you, the first human candidate in our history. Jack circled the hologram. Coffee forgotten. This has to be a joke. The message continued as if anticipating his response. This is no deception. Our observers have monitored your species for decades. While humanity remains classified as a junior species by Galactic Coalition standards, certain individuals show potential. Images flashed showing Jack's military training, his simulator scores, and finally the incident that ended his career. Refusing orders to fire on what his instruments indicated was a civilian vessel. Your physical capabilities are unremarkable. By galactic standards, the voice continued without emotion. However, your decision-making patterns and stress responses are unusual. Sunspire seeks diversity of thought. You provide this. Jack laughed, the kind of laugh that comes when reality becomes too absurd to process any other way. Earth had achieved interstellar travel barely 30 years ago and remained on the fringes of galactic politics. Most advanced species viewed humans as barely civilized apes who somehow stumbled into space. The selection is a great honor, the message continued. It is also a warning. Sunspire Academy accepts only those who can survive its training. Our mortality rate is 17%. This is not a metaphor. Failure at Sunspire often means death. Jack's laughter died in his throat. A representative will arrive in 3 Earth days to transport you should you accept. This invitation expires in 24 hours. The hologram faded, leaving behind a simple floating button marked Accept in multiple languages. Jack stared at the empty space, wondering if he'd finally lost his mind. It's real, confirmed Director Ortiz, head of Earth's Bureau of Extraterrestrial Affairs. The government officials had arrived at Jack's door within 2 hours of the message. Now they sat in his living room, looking as out of place as their expensive suits. And you knew about this? Jack asked, pacing the small room. Not exactly, said Ortiz. We've heard rumors about Sunspire. It's something between a military academy and a diplomatic training ground for the most advanced species. No human has ever received an invitation. Until now, added the second official, a stern woman who had introduced herself only as Agent Clark. This is a significant opportunity, Mr. Reed. Jack stopped pacing. An opportunity for what? To die in space? They literally said people don't survive this place. Ortiz leaned forward. Sunspire graduates become leaders, diplomats, and military commanders throughout the coalition. When you succeed, it could change humanity's standing among the stars. And why me? I'm a washout. Clark spoke up. Your psychological profile indicates high adaptability and unconventional problem solving. And despite what you might think, your insubordination incident actually marked you as someone with independent judgment. Jack laughed bitterly. So the aliens like me because I can't follow orders? Great. They like you because you think differently, Ortiz corrected. Most coalition species have very structured thought patterns. Humans are unpredictable. And that's good? It's unique, Clark said. And at Sunspire, unique might keep you alive. Jack turned to the window, looking up at the sky. Somewhere up there, a space station orbited a captured star, filled with beings who thought humans were interesting specimens at best, future threats at worst. What happens if I say no? The officials exchanged glances. Nothing, Ortiz said finally. You continue your life. But humanity loses a chance to prove itself as something more than a junior species. Jack knew they were manipulating him, pushing at his sense of duty and his wounded pride. The worst part was, it was working. I need time to think. That night, Jack sat on his roof watching the stars. His hand held a small medallion, his grandfather's from the days when humans still fought each other, before the stars unified them. He flipped it between his fingers, the worn metal catching moonlight. His comm unit buzzed. The caller ID showed his mother's face. Jack, is it true? Her voice trembled with a mixture of fear and pride. How did you find out? Your father called. He said the military briefed him. Of course they had. Admiral Ben Reed would be informed of anything involving his son, despite their estrangement. I haven't decided yet, Mom. She was quiet for a moment. Your grandfather used to say that every generation has its frontier. His was the ocean. Your father's was the solar system. And mine is out there, Jack finished, looking at the stars. If you go, she said carefully, you might not come back. Jack closed his fist around the medallion. If I don't go, I'll never leave at all. 3 days later, Jack stood on the landing pad at the North American spaceport, a single bag slung over his shoulder. Director Ortiz stood beside him along with a team of scientists eager to witness an alien vessel up close. Any last advice? Jack asked. Ortiz smiled thinly. Don't die. Helpful. One more thing, Ortiz added, his expression serious. Whatever happens up there, remember you're not just representing yourself. You're representing all of us. The sky darkened suddenly as a massive ship appeared from nowhere, its hull shimmering with technology that made Earth's best ships look like children's toys. It hovered silently, defying gravity without visible engines. A beam of light shot down, solidifying into a ramp. At its top stood a figure, tall, reptilian, with 4 arms and scales that shifted color like oil on water. Jack Reed of Earth, the alien called, its voice the same as in the hologram. I am Torek. Your decision? Jack took a deep breath, feeling the weight of the moment. Behind him lay everything familiar, a planet where he was just another failed pilot. Ahead waited the unknown, danger, and perhaps a chance to be something more. He stepped forward onto the ramp. I accept. The ramp began to retract, lifting Jack toward the waiting ship. As Earth fell away beneath him, he caught one last glimpse of his home planet, blue and beautiful and suddenly very small. The last thing he heard before the ship sealed around him was Torek's voice. Welcome to Sunspire Dangerous Academy, human. Survival begins now. The ship journey lasted 3 days by Earth time, though Jack couldn't be sure if time passed the same way in deep space. His quarters were small but comfortable, with strange food that tasted like nothing he recognized but somehow satisfied his hunger. He saw no one except Torek, who appeared once a day to check on him without saying much. On what Jack thought was the 3rd morning, Torek entered his room and said simply, "We arrive." Jack followed the tall reptilian being to the ship's observation deck. The view stole his breath away. Before them floated Sunspire Academy, a massive ring-shaped station slowly rotating around a small, incredibly bright star. Is that a neutron star? Torek confirmed. Captured and harnessed, it powers everything. As they approached, Jack realized just how enormous the station was. The main ring must have been at least 10 miles across, with smaller rings and structures extending outward like spokes on a wheel. How many students are there? Jack asked. 5,000 from across the galaxy, Torek replied. Today we welcome 500 new arrivals. Statistically, 300 will survive to graduation. Jack's stomach tightened. You really weren't joking about the death rate? Torek's scales shifted from green to a deep blue. Sunspire does not joke, human. The docking bay was chaos, hundreds of strange ships and even stranger beings. Jack saw creatures with multiple limbs, some floating in liquid environments, others encased in mechanical suits. His human form felt painfully ordinary among them. "Processing first," Torek announced, guiding Jack toward a large doorway where lines of new arrivals waited. "What's processing?" Jack asked, but Torek had already vanished into the crowd. Jack joined the line, trying not to stare at the four-armed blue creature in front of him, or the floating orb of light behind him. Nobody spoke to him, though many stared or made sounds he guessed were whispers. When his turn came, Jack entered a chamber where robotic arms descended from the ceiling. A voice spoke in perfect English. "Remain still for biological assessment." The BR arms moved around him, taking samples of his hair, skin, and blood. Light scanned him from head to toe. It was uncomfortable but not painful. Species, human. Baseline physical capabilities recorded. Endurance, above species average. Reflex response, above species average. Pain tolerance, significantly above species average. Jack raised an eyebrow. He'd never thought of himself as particularly tough. Atmospheric requirements noted. Room assignment, Level 7, Block 3, Unit 12. Roommate assigned. Proceed to orientation. The door on the opposite side slid open, and Jack stepped through, finding himself in a corridor bustling with new arrivals. A map appeared on the wall beside him, a blinking dot showing his location, and a line leading to orientation. As he followed the map, Jack noticed the gravity felt slightly heavier than Earth normal. His muscles would ache by day's end. The orientation hall was massive, with rising seats filled with beings of all descriptions. Jack found his assigned spot next to a blue-skinned creature with 4 arms who gave him a sideways glance. "You are the human?" the alien said, voice clicking oddly. "Jack," he replied, extending his hand before realizing the gesture might mean nothing here. To his surprise, the alien extended a lower right arm. "They call me Max, not my real name, but easier for most species to pronounce." Jack shook the offered hand carefully. "Nice to meet you." "We are roommates," Max said. "I requested a non-gaseous bunkmate. They assigned me you." "Lucky you," Jack said dryly. Max's eyes blinked in sequence rather than together. "There is a betting pool on how long you will survive. The average bet is 7 days." Jack stared. "Thanks for the vote of confidence." "I bet 14, Max said, as if this were generous. Before Jack could respond, the lights dimmed. "Headmaster." Torek appeared on a central platform, his scales now a formal black and gold. "New arrivals." His voice boomed without visible amplification. "You stand in a place few are invited to enter. Fewer still will remain to graduation day." Images appeared in the air above him, different species in various training scenarios, some triumphant, others clearly struggling. Sunspire accepts only the exceptional. We push beyond normal limits. Some will fail, some will die. This is not cruelty, it is necessity. The galaxy needs leaders who have faced the impossible and survived. Jack shifted uncomfortably in his seat. "Look around you," Torek continued. "Of the 500 in this room, our historical data suggests only 300 will complete the year." Uneasy murmurs rippled through the crowd. "Your first challenge begins now. Return to your assigned quarters. Instructions await." Dismissed. Jack and Max made their way to their room in silence. The quarters were simple. 2 beds, 2 desks, a shared bathing facility with settings for different biologies. On each desk sat what looked like a glass cube. When Jack touched his, it lit up with text. Challenge 1. Adaptation report to training. Hall 3 in 1 hour bring nothing. Max read his own cube and made a sound like metal grinding. Adaptation tests are designed for pain. Jack's mouth went dry. "What kind of pain?" "The kind that reveals what you are made of," Max replied. "Sometimes literally." Training Hall 3 looked like a massive gymnasium with obstacles and equipment Jack couldn't begin to identify. About 50 new students gathered, representing a dozen different species. A silver-skinned humanoid with no visible eyes approached Jack. "You're the human," she said, her voice musical. "That obvious?" Jack replied. "I'm Lyra," she said. "My people are somewhat telepathic. Your thoughts are loud," Jack winced. Sorry about that. It's interesting, she said. Most species here think in patterns, yours jumps around. Before Jack could respond, a gaseous entity contained in a mechanical suit floated to the center of the room. I am Professor Drath, it announced. Today you learn your first lesson. In space, environments are rarely suited to your biology. The room darkened, and suddenly gravity shifted. Jack felt himself becoming lighter, then weightless. Around him, some species seemed comfortable while others flailed. Space has no up or down, Drath continued. Some of you evolved in gravity, some did not. Today, none of you have advantage. Floating obstacles appeared, moving barriers, shifting light patterns, and temperature zones. Reach the opposite side. Work with your assigned team. Fail together. Or succeed together. Jack found himself grouped with Max, Lyra, and two other aliens he hadn't met. One looked like a giant caterpillar. The other was a crystalline structure that somehow moved. Begin, Drath announced. Immediately, chaos erupted. Some students shot across the room using natural propulsion. Others crashed into obstacles. Jack's team hovered uncertainly. Any ideas? Jack asked, trying to control his rotation. The crystalline being made a series of musical tones. Lyra nodded. Rick says the obstacles appear to have a pattern, she translated. Jack squinted, watching the movements. His pilot training kicked in. Tracking multiple objects was something he knew well. There, he said, pointing. Every 30 seconds, a path opens up. If we time it right. Max looked skeptical. How do we move together? None of us have the same propulsion. Jack grinned, grabbing a loose strap from his uniform. We make a chain. Max, you're strongest. You go first and pull. I'll be the link. To Lyra, who connects to Rix, who holds Tarn. He nodded to the caterpillar-like being. This is foolish, Max said, but he took the offered strap. For the next hour, they practiced, failing repeatedly. Each failure taught them something. How to coordinate movements, how to protect weaker team members, how to use each species' strengths. On their 7th attempt, they made it halfway across before a sudden temperature drop caused Tarn to convulse. Can't handle the cold, Lyra warned. Jack made a split-second decision, positioning himself between Tarn and the cold zone, using his body as a shield. Max, full speed now, he shouted. The blue alien pulled hard, launching their chain through the cold section before Jack's own body temperature dropped too far. They crashed onto the other side in a tangled heap, the third team to finish. Professor Drath floated over to them. Interesting solution, human. Using your own thermal mass as a shield was unexpected. Jack, shivering violently, managed a smile. Just adapting, Professor. Later, as they returned to their quarters, Max gave Jack a puzzled look. You risked tissue damage to help Tarn? You barely know him. Jack shrugged. That's what teams do. Perhaps, Max said slowly. I should change my bet in the pool. Jack raised an eyebrow. To what? 1 month. Max's eyes blinked in sequence. I think you may last longer than expected, human. Jack grinned. It wasn't much, but it was a start. 2 weeks passed at Sunspire, each day bringing new challenges that pushed Jack to his limits. His muscles ached constantly from the slightly higher gravity. His skin had burned and healed twice from exposure to strange energies. But he was still alive, which was more than could be said for 18 of his fellow new arrivals. Jack sat in the Academy's vast dining hall, poking at food designed to be nutritionally complete for humans but tasting like bland cardboard. Max sat across from him, consuming something that looked like moving blue crystals. You survived the hive mind simulation yesterday, Max noted. Most non-telepathic species fail that test. Jack shrugged. I just treated it like a puzzle. If you can't read minds, you have to look for patterns in behavior. Lyra joined them, her silver skin gleaming under the artificial lights. It was impressive. Professor Drath has been talking about your solution. Great, Jack said. More attention is exactly what I need. Attention means people are watching, Max said. Watching means they expect something from you, or they're waiting for me to fail, Jack replied. Lyra's expression was hard to read without visible eyes, but her voice softened. Not everyone. Some are actually changing their bets in the survival pool. The latest average is up to 6 weeks. Jack laughed. I'm flattered. A hush fell over the dining hall. Jack turned to see what had caused it. A human male stood in the entrance, wearing the same uniform as Jack but looking far more confident. Another human? Max whispered, forearms tensing. In surprise, the newcomer spotted Jack and walked directly to their table. He was taller than Jack, with military posture and a winning smile. Jack Reed? I'm Tom Wilson. Looks like I'm not the only Earthling here anymore. Jack stood, shaking the offered hand. I didn't know they were sending anyone else. Tom's smile remained fixed. Last-minute decision. Earth's not putting all its eggs in one basket, so to speak. Something about Tom's perfect smile and carefully casual tone set off warning bells in Jack's mind, but he pushed the feeling aside. Another human at Sunspire could only help his chances of survival. Join us, Jack offered, gesturing to their table. That afternoon, Jack and Tom faced off in the combat training arena. Each held a practice weapon, a staff that could be programmed to simulate any melee weapon in the galaxy. Begin, called Professor Drath, hovering at the edge of the circular platform. Tom moved first, his staff shifting into a curved blade. His technique was flawless, clearly enhanced military training. Jack barely blocked the first strike, his own staff morphing into a defensive shield. You're holding back, Tom said quietly as they circled each other. What are you talking about? Jack grunted, deflecting another strike. Your file says you're better than this, Tom replied, pressing forward. Show them what humans can really do. Jack frowned. How did Tom know what was in his file? But there was no time to think as Tom launched a series of attacks that drove Jack to the edge of the platform. One wrong step and he'd fall 15 feet to the hard floor below. The watching students murmured. Jack could feel their eyes, waiting for the human to fail. Something clicked in Jack's mind. Tom wasn't fighting to win. He was fighting to make Jack look good. The realization hit him like cold water. You're not here to compete, Jack whispered during their next clash. You're my backup plan. Tom's smile flickered. Earth needs a representative to graduate. Doesn't matter which one of us it is. Jack felt anger rise in his chest. He'd been struggling for 2 weeks, earning every small victory, while Earth sent a ringer to ensure success. Without thinking, Jack switched tactics. He stopped fighting by the Academy's formal combat rules and fell back on street fighting he'd learned growing up. His movements became unpredictable, his style chaotic. The watching aliens went silent as Jack launched a series of unorthodox attacks that didn't follow any recognizable pattern. Tom, despite his superior training, couldn't anticipate where the next strike would come from. In less than a minute, Jack had Tom pinned, the practice weapon at his throat. Match to Reed, Professor Drath announced, genuine surprise in his gaseous voice. As they left the arena, Tom grabbed Jack's arm. What was that? He hissed. Human unpredictability, Jack replied with a grin. Isn't that why we're here? That night, an alarm blared through the station. Red lights flashed in every corridor. Emergency in Habitat Module 7, the station's AI announced. All students returned to quarters. Jack sat up in bed. That's 2 levels down from us. What's happening? Max's skin had paled to a light blue. Containment. Breach, possibly. Very bad if true. The door to their room slid open and Lyra stood there, panic clear in her posture. Jack, Max, we need help. A group of first years is trapped in the module. Jack was already pulling on his boots. What happened? Atmospheric controls malfunctioned. The module is losing pressure and heat. The emergency systems aren't responding. Where are the instructors? Max asked, joining them in the hall. Dealing with another emergency on the far side of the station, Lyra said. Please, there's no time. They ran through corridors now mostly empty as other students followed orders to return to quarters. When they reached Module 7, the entrance was sealed, with emergency barriers. A small group of students huddled nearby, including Tom. The system's locked everyone out, Tom explained. There are 5 students inside. The air is already down to 60% normal pressure. Jack examined the control panel beside the door. Can we override it? Not without instructor authorization, Lyra said. Jack turned to Max. Your species has enhanced strength, right? Can you force it? Max's forearms flexed. Not against station security systems, Jack thought quickly. Then we need to trick the system into opening itself. He turned to the gathered students. Does anyone here have technical skills? Engineering? A crystalline being stepped forward. Rix from his first team challenge. The alien made musical tones that Lyra translated. Rix says he can access the emergency systems from a maintenance tunnel, but the tunnel is flooded with radiation right now. What kind of radiation? Jack asked. The kind that will kill most. Organic life forms, Tom said grimly. Jack looked around at the gathered aliens, each with different biological strengths and weaknesses. A plan formed in his mind. Rix, can you survive the radiation? The crystalline being chimed in affirmative. Max, your species has resistance to cold, right? Max nodded. Significant resistance. And Lyra, your telepathy, can you maintain contact with everyone even through barriers? Yes, but perfect, Jack interrupted. Here's what we're going to do. For the next 5 minutes, Jack outlined a plan that used each species' unique abilities. Rix would navigate the maintenance tunnel to access the emergency systems. Max would enter the module once they got the door open, as he could handle the freezing temperatures longest. Lyra would coordinate telepathically, while Jack and Tom would prepare medical support for the evacuees. This is insane, Tom muttered. We should wait for the instructors. They won't make it in time, Jack insisted. We're doing this. To Jack's surprise, no one argued further. Even more surprising, they followed his instructions without question. The plan worked. Mostly. Rix accessed the systems. Max rescued 3 of the trapped students, and Tom proved his worth by carrying out the 4th who had collapsed. The 5th student, a gaseous entity like Professor Drath, had already condensed into a survival state and merely needed containment. As the medical team took over, Jack sank to the floor, exhaustion overtaking him. You organized a rescue against direct orders, came a deep voice. Jack looked up to see Dean Vex, the station's stern administrator, standing over him. The tall, gray-skinned alien had made no secret of his dislike for humans. Yes, sir, Jack admitted. The trapped students wouldn't have survived if we'd waited. Vex's expression remained cold. You put additional students at risk with your actions. No one was forced to help, Jack countered. Everyone volunteered. The dean's eyes narrowed. Interesting that 2 such emergencies would occur simultaneously, on opposite sides of the station. Almost as if someone planned it. Jack stood slowly. Are you suggesting this was deliberate? I suggest nothing, Vex replied. But I will be watching you, human. Both of you. He glanced at Tom before walking away. As the corridor cleared, Tom approached Jack. That was good work. Maybe we make a decent team after all. Jack nodded, but his mind was stuck on Vex's words. 2 simultaneous emergencies. Someone planning it. The thought sent a chill through him that had nothing to do with the module's freezing temperature. Someone at Sunspire wanted the humans to fail, and they might be willing to kill to make it happen. 1 month into Jack's time at Sunspire, the suspicions about Dean Vex grew stronger. 3 more accidents had occurred, all targeting training sessions involving humans. In the last incident, Tom had barely escaped a gravity malfunction that crushed training equipment to scrap metal. Jack and Tom sat in a quiet corner of the station's observation deck, looking out at the neutron star that powered the academy. Its intense light was filtered through special shields that turned the deadly radiation into a beautiful blue glow. We need proof, Tom said, keeping his voice low. If someone's targeting humans, we can't just make accusations without evidence. Jack nodded. I've been mapping the accidents. They all connect to systems Dean Vex has access to. That's still not proof. He's the administrator. He has access to everything. A shadow fell across them. Jack looked up to see Max, his forearms folded across his chest. "You should not speak of the Dean where others might hear," Max warned, sitting beside them. "Walls have sensors in Sunspire." "You think we're right about him?" Jack asked. Max's skin rippled with dark blue patterns, a sign of distress in his species. "I have access to old records. Dean Vex's homeworld had first contact with humans 300 years ago. It ended badly." Tom leaned forward. "How badly?" "His species once populated 12 worlds. After meeting humans, they occupy 3. There was a disease, a human virus that mutated. It was not intentional, but his people have long memories." Jack felt cold despite the temperature-controlled environment. "He blames all humans for something that happened centuries ago?" "His family was among the hardest hit," Max confirmed. "But that is not all. Tomorrow brings the Crucible." Both humans stared at him. "What's the Crucible?" Jack asked. "The most dangerous test at Sunspire. Only given to those who break major rules or show exceptional ability." Max looked pointedly at Jack. "You earned notice by organizing that rescue. Notice is not always good." Before Jack could respond, his communication device beeped. The message was simple. "Report to Headmaster's office." Immediately, Headmaster Torik's office was a circular room high in the station's central hub. One wall was transparent, showing the neutron star pulsing like a cosmic heartbeat. Torik himself stood with his back to the door, scales shifting through patterns of gold and black. "Jack Reed," he said without turning, "you continue to surprise us." Jack remained silent, waiting. Most species conform quickly to Academy protocols. Humans appear resistant to conformity. "Is that why I'm here, sir? Because I don't conform?" Torik turned, his reptilian eyes studying Jack carefully. "You are here because of a request. The Earth Diplomatic Corps has sent a representative to observe your progress." The door behind Jack opened. He turned, expecting perhaps another government official like the ones who had briefed him on Earth. Instead, he found himself staring at Admiral Ben Reed, his father. "Dad?" The word escaped before Jack could stop it. The Admiral nodded stiffly. "Cadet Reed." Torik's scales flickered with what Jack had learned was amusement. "I will leave you to your reunion." He glided from the room, the door sealing behind him. For a long moment, father and son stared at each other. The Admiral looked older than Jack remembered, the lines around his eyes deeper, his posture slightly less rigid. "You look well," the Admiral finally said. "Better than expected given the reports." "What are you doing here?" Jack demanded, anger rising unexpectedly. "And don't say it's an official observation. There are a dozen diplomats who could have come instead." The Admiral sighed, some of his formal demeanor slipping. "I requested the assignment." "Why?" "To see if you were all right." A pause. "And to warn you." Jack's anger faltered. "Warn me about what?" "Politics." The Admiral moved to the window, looking out at the star. "Your presence here has larger implications than you know. Some on Earth want humans to succeed at Sunspire at any cost. Others in the Galactic Coalition would prefer we remain a junior species indefinitely." Understanding dawned on Jack. "That's why Tom was sent. He's not just my backup, he's insurance." The Admiral nodded. "The stakes are high, Jack. Higher than one person's success or failure. Is that why you're really here? To make sure Earth's investment pays off?" His father turned, something like pain crossing his face. "I'm here because my son is in danger and I pulled every string I could to get on that transport ship." Before Jack could respond, the room's communication system chimed. "Headmaster Torik to Jack Reed. Report to Testing Chamber 0 immediately. Your crucible begins in 1 hour." Jack stood before a massive circular door marked with warning symbols from a dozen different species. He wore a protective suit that felt too thin for whatever waited on the other side. Headmaster Torik stood beside him, along with Professor Drath, Dean Vex, and a small group of senior instructors. Tom, Max, and Lyra had come to see him off, though they weren't permitted to approach. His father stood with them, face unreadable. The crucible is unique for each student, Torek explained. It tests not just survival skills but judgment and character. For you, the challenge lies at the heart of Sunspire. The neutron star containment facility, Dean Vex added, his voice carrying a hint of satisfaction. Jack's mouth went dry. That's the most dangerous part of the station. Indeed, Torek confirmed. The facility requires maintenance. The robotic systems have failed. Someone must go, a living being with problem-solving capabilities. And you chose me. The Dean. Recommended you specifically, Professor Drath noted, his gaseous form swirling faster than usual. Jack glanced at Vex, whose face remained impassive. How convenient. You may decline, Torek said. No student is forced to attempt the crucible. But if I decline, your evaluation will note that you reached your limits. Jack thought about Earth, about humanity's position in the galaxy, about his own future. He thought about the betting pool that now had him surviving to graduation. He thought about his father watching. What exactly do I need to do? He asked. Torek handed him a small device. The containment field requires recalibration. This tool will guide you. The challenge is reaching the core control room through areas of intense radiation and gravitational fluctuations. Has anyone completed this version of the crucible before? A heavy silence fell. Finally, Torek answered, No. Jack took a deep breath. Then I'll be the first. As the instructor stepped back, Tom approached, ignoring protocols. This is a setup, he whispered urgently. Vex designed this to eliminate you. I know, Jack replied, but I can't back down now. Then I should go instead. My combat implants give me better chances. Jack shook his head. That's why it has to be me. The unenhanced human nobody expected to survive this long. He managed to smile. Besides, if I fail, Earth still has you. Tom clasped his shoulder. Don't fail. The massive door began to slide open, revealing a narrow corridor bathed in blue light. Jack could feel heat radiating from it even where he stood. His father approached, standing at attention. Jack, he began, then stopped. Military discipline, warring with parental concern. Jack nodded. I know, Dad. Duty first. The Admiral shook his head. Not this time. He pulled Jack into a brief, fierce hug. Come back. That's an order. As Jack stepped toward the doorway, Dean Vex moved closer. A shame your species will lose its representative, he said quietly. But perhaps better to learn your limitations now than later. Jack met his gaze steadily. My species survived its own nuclear age, 2 global pandemics, and first contact with 17 alien civilizations. We're still here. Underestimating humans is a mistake many have made. Without waiting for a response, Jack turned and walked through the doorway into the blue light. The door sealed behind him with a final sounding thud. The crucible had begun. The corridor leading to the neutron star containment facility grew hotter with each step Jack took. His protective suit's temperature gauge rose steadily, already nearing its maximum range. The artificial gravity fluctuated wildly. One moment, he felt like he weighed 300 pounds, the next he was nearly floating. Just keep moving, Jack muttered to himself, following the blue line projected by his guide device. The passage narrowed, forcing him to crawl through a maintenance tube. The metal was hot enough to burn through his gloves. Jack gritted his teeth against the pain and pushed forward. Warning, his suit announced in a calm voice. Radiation levels exceeding safe parameters. Estimated survival time, 40 minutes. Plenty of time, Jack replied sarcastically. The tube ended at a small chamber with 3 doors. The guide device pointed to the center door, but when Jack tried the handle, it was locked. Of course it is, he sighed. Jack examined the other doors. The left one was marked with warning symbols he recognized as extreme danger. The right door had a simple keypad. He studied the keypad, trying to remember the xenolinguistics he'd been learning. The symbols weren't standard galactic common. They were specific to Vex's species. When faced with a locked door, Jack recalled Professor Drath saying during a lecture, "Consider why it's locked, not just how to open it." Jack smiled grimly. The door was locked using Dean Vex's native language, a test within the test. Luckily, after suspecting Vex of sabotage, Jack had been studying his species' history and culture. The keypad needed a 6-digit code. Jack thought about what he knew of Vex's people. They measured time differently, used a base 8 numbering system, and their calendar, Jack realized. They marked time from the Great Dying, when that virus decimated their worlds. Jack entered the date of first contact with humans, converted to their numbering system. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Beyond it lay the central control room for the neutron star containment field. Blue-white light pulsed from massive energy conduits that surrounded a central platform. The heat was intense, the radiation worse. "Warning," his suit repeated. "Radiation levels critical. Estimated survival time, 15 minutes. Jack moved quickly to the control panel. According to his briefing, he needed to recalibrate the containment field, a routine but essential maintenance task. He pulled out the calibration tool and connected it to the panel. Nothing happened. Jack checked the connections, the power supply, everything he could think of. The calibration tool was dead. "No, no, no," he muttered, trying again. The realization hit him like a physical blow. The tool had been sabotaged. Dean Vex had ensured Jack would reach the control room but be unable to complete his task. He would be trapped, exposure to radiation slowly killing him. Clever, Jack admitted. He was supposed to die here with no evidence of foul play, just another student who couldn't complete the crucible. But as Jack looked around the control room more carefully, he noticed something odd. Near one of the conduits was a maintenance panel that looked recently used. Jack pried it open and found a surprise, a manual override system. The old backup for the backup, Jack realized. These systems were ancient, built when Sunspire was first constructed. The manual override was simple but required physical adjustments to the conduits themselves, adjustments that would expose the operator to direct radiation. "Warning," his suit announced again. "Radiation levels exceeding all safety parameters. Estimated survival time 8 minutes. Jack laughed despite himself. Not much choice, is there? He removed his protective gloves. He needed bare hands for the delicate adjustments, and reached into the conduit housing. Pain shot through his fingers immediately as radiation burned his skin, but he kept working. One by one, Jack aligned the conduits using the manual gauges to check his progress. His vision began to blur, his hands shaking from radiation poisoning. But he continued. The final conduit clicked into place. The pulsing light stabilized, changing from erratic blue-white to a steady gold. A mechanical voice announced, "Containment field recalibrated. Stability restored to optimal levels." Jack stumbled back from the controls, his legs giving out. He collapsed onto the floor, darkness creeping in at the edges of his vision. "Crucible. Complete," he whispered, as consciousness slipped away. Jack awoke to bright light and the sound of medical equipment. For a moment he thought he was back on Earth in a hospital. Then he saw Max sitting beside his bed, all 4 arms holding different medical displays. "The human awakens," Max announced, his voice containing actual emotion for once. Jack tried to speak, but his throat was too dry. Max offered him water through a straw. "How long?" Jack finally managed. 3 weeks, came another voice. Jack turned his head to see his father entering the medical bay, followed by Headmaster Torek. 3 weeks? Jack repeated in disbelief. Torek's scales shifted to a pattern Jack had never seen before, something like respect. "You were exposed to radiation levels that would have killed most species instantly. Humans, it seems, have remarkable cellular regeneration capabilities when properly treated. The containment field? Perfectly recalibrated," Torek confirmed. "You completed your task despite sabotage." Jack's eyes widened. "You knew?" "We suspected," the Admiral said, his face stern. "When you lost consciousness, emergency protocols activated. The medical team found evidence the calibration tool had been tampered with." "Dean Vex?" Torek's scales darkened. Dean Vex has been removed from his position. Investigation revealed he was working with a faction that believes humans will eventually threaten galactic stability. They wanted to ensure no human ever graduated from Sunspire. Jack tried to sit up, wincing at the pain. How many students are left? Of your incoming class, 290 remain. Torik's voice softened. Below even our statistical average. And the Crucible? Did I pass? Torik made a sound Jack had learned was laughter. Jack Reed. The Crucible has never been about success. It is about character, what one does when facing the impossible. Many students have attempted similar challenges, the Admiral added. None completed their task. Some tried and failed. Others gave up. A few looked for shortcuts. You alone finished the task properly, even knowing it might kill you, Torik said. That is why you not only passed but earned highest honors. Jack stared at them both. Highest honors? Me? Max's skin rippled with blue patterns of amusement. The betting pool has ended. Those who bet on your success have become quite wealthy. 2 months later, Jack stood with the other survivors of his class in Sunspire's Grand Hall. His body had healed, though doctors said he would always carry traces of his exposure. Small price to pay, he thought. Headmaster Torik addressed the assembled students and guests, his scales formal gold and black once more. Today we celebrate those who have proven themselves worthy of Sunspire's legacy. Among them, one student has achieved what no representative of a junior species ever has before. Jack felt hundreds of eyes turned toward him. Jack Reed of Earth. Approach. Jack walked forward, conscious of Tom, Max, and Lyra watching with pride. His father stood with the other officials, for once allowing a small smile to break his military bearing. Torik presented Jack with a small crystal that glowed with inner light. The Star of Sunspire, our highest honor. May it remind you always of what you achieved here. As Jack accepted the award, Torik spoke again, this time addressing all present. The Galactic Coalition has voted. Based on the performance of their representatives at Sunspire, humanity's status has been upgraded. Earth is no longer classified as a junior species. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Jack caught Dean Vex's replacement, a stern but fair administrator, nodding in approval. In his graduation speech, Jack spoke briefly. At Sunspire, I learned that survival isn't about being the strongest or the smartest. It's about adaptation, cooperation, and refusing to quit. These aren't human traits, they're the qualities that unite all successful species. The stars belong to those willing to reach for them together. 1 month later, Jack stood on a platform at Earth's North American spaceport, watching as a transport ship descended. The same spot where his journey had begun, though he was not the same person who had left. The ship landed, and its ramp extended. Tom emerged first, followed by Max, Lyra, and 3 other Sunspire graduates. Welcome to Earth, Jack said, grinning. Max's skin displayed patterns of excitement. Strange gravity, strange atmosphere, strange everything. You'll get used to it, Jack assured him. The exchange program is just beginning. As they walked toward the terminal, Jack noticed a new group of young humans waiting nervously near a departure gate. Their faces showed the same mix of fear and determination he had felt a year ago. Sunspire candidates? He asked a nearby official. Yes, 30 this time. Your success opened the door. Jack smiled, touching the Star of Sunspire he wore on a chain around his neck. Tell them to watch out for the betting pool. As the sun set over the spaceport, Jack led his alien friends toward their new temporary home. Behind them, a ship prepared to take the next group of humans to Sunspire Dangerous, Academy where the impossible waited to be overcome.